not only does the whole situation seem very far-fetched, but a lot of you have just been through a lot in the past couple of years. So, yeah, I wanted to preface by saying that basically the conclusions that I've been coming to recently is that looking at, what I want and what I thought about things, I would very much just identify with, the spiritual side of myself, just just the non corporeal, the light spirit side, and I just wanted to push away physicality because over physicality, just especially here, is just such an ugly thing. And I really, just the more deeply I ponder on this, the more I think this is where a lot of our, not our personally, but the broader scale of existence in this bandwidth of reality, I think a lot of the problems all come back to over physicality. And this whole thing stemmed from my recent ideas of most things being belief. And I did a lot of deep searching in my own consciousness for, how I approach things as a consciousness when I was much younger, when people were, hadn't drilled into me their perspective of reality and how real it is, for years and years and years. Because you believing everything is so real makes it that way. So when I kind of stepped back from that, I started to realize that not only is so many things that we experience, or at least that I experience, belief and just beliefs, either very strong beliefs or very fleeting beliefs, but it is just that. But also, day to day, especially when I was a lot, younger, but it happens now too, is anything kind of odd that I would see, I would just kind of try and edit that out. As in, like, I would see it, but just kind of try and overlook it to hold on to a particular storyline, a narrative of this is so real, this is so real, this is so real. And like I said, through searching in my own consciousness, I got to a point of saying, wait a minute, it's if I need to edit things out to make this story, likely to make to make this appear so solid and so real and so unflexible to myself, then it's not so. As in seeing weird reality glitches and seeing, strange things go on, whether in your peripheral view or just, straight ahead of you. If you have to edit those things out to try and make yourself believe that there's nothing weird going on because everything is so real, do you get what I'm saying? I finally have reached that point of saying, okay, this is just a deeper density of dream that I'm in right now. And it's taken me so long to get to that point because it's not that I haven't thought about these things before. It's just that reality would not react. You know what I mean? There was that kind of seeing my surroundings, but either believing so much that I was separate from my surroundings that there was no reflection of consciousness there. Like, no matter what I thought, it seemed like everything around me was not hearing me, was not reacting to me, it wasn't making any difference. So that held up the illusion that I was just, in this rigid conscious state that doesn't change and that is, that is what everyone who's playing this game is trying to convince you that it is. But I would like to know, as I guess even just for my own curiosity, how many of you are kind of in the same thing where you can see it's a game. So much of it is based upon belief. You are actually editing things out of your own conscious experience to make it seem less dreamlike and to make it seem more real. to try and copy the experiences of the ones around you who are not the same consciousness as you are. They are they're something different. They're having a completely different experience than we are. I don't know the parameters of that. None of us do. It's just going on observation here. They are living a completely different life than we are. They're having a completely different experience than we are. They're seeing things in completely different ways than we are. And a lot of us, even though a lot of us have not met personally, we don't even need to really start explaining things to each other. We've had such similar experiences in life. So that would lead me to believe that myself and a lot of people that are listening to this originated from the same consciousness, or we're coming from the same bandwidth of reality. There's a connection there that doesn't need deep explanation. Whereas when you're talking to the people around you, you're talking to a completely stranger consciousness, like it's a stranger. You don't recognize the self. It's not a mirroring of consciousness like it is in our community. You're trying to explain to somebody as if they are, excuse the term, from a different planet. I know we're the ones that are actually from somewhere else, but there's no meeting point there. People just don't know where you're coming from at all. And perhaps it is because I believe this turning point that we're in right now, this crazy experience that we're in, where everyday life has gotten so surreal, comes back to this idea of over physicality. These guys here either cannot access the awareness that this is just a denser dream than the ones that you have when you're asleep here. Either they can't access that, or they have convinced themselves so much that everything is physicality and that's all it is, that they're now stuck in that and they can't get out of it.